Welcome to the Week 7 edition of the Survivor Podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Matt Brown, Steven Andrus, and if you're still around, well, you were probably around last week too, because we had a boring week in the NFL for the first time, Steven. We didn't have anything crazy happen. Most likely any pool that you were in only had a couple of people eliminated, if any, considering the size that you had left out there. So, Steven, look, it wasn't going to be It was impossible for every big favorite to continue to lose each and every week of the NFL. Plus, there is some credence maybe to the fact that we are starting to understand these teams a little bit better, and the lines are a little bit more indicative of who these teams actually are too. And so pretty much everyone survived last week.
Yeah, I was at a pool with 41 people. Only one person was eliminated because they picked the Jaguars in London. Why? Not sure, but... yeah. Thank you, whoever that was. Appreciate it.
Good on them, I suppose.
One less.
Yeah.
One less to worry about.
Yeah. Good on them, I suppose. Yeah, I don't, I definitely don't get that one. This week is fairly interesting, mainly because while there are some big favorites out there, maybe they are teams that you've used along the way, namely Buffalo. And, you know, Steven, Buffalo's 9-ish point favorite somewhere out there in the market. The only thing is some people use Buffalo in week 1, right? And so Buffalo was one of the teams that could have gotten you this far as it is anyway. That said, if you do have Buffalo left out there, probably your top choice on the week. As we kind of look down the rest of the market, Steven, we got Washington as a big favorite. You got the Rams as a big favorite. Cincinnati as a big favorite. Weirdly enough, Jacksonville as a big favorite. So there are some options that are in that kind of 5.5 and bigger spread range.
Right. And, you know, for me, I always try and figure out who's going to be the most popular each and every week. If I'm going to try and avoid that, try and see if there's going to be a team that's going to be really popular. And it seems like those that have Buffalo are going to be ready to use them. I think every pool is going to be different. I'll kind of share what I see right now. You know, the nationwide ESPN free survivor pool. It looks like the Bills are going to be kind of middle of the road popular, like 16%. Our Pool Genius tools are too early in the week to get an accurate representation of what the popularity is going to be, but they're projecting top 2 popularity among teams this week. So if you are a Pool Genius subscriber, check it later, closer to kickoff when they get more data in. If you're not a Pool Genius subscriber and you're still in a survivor pool, it's worth it to try and win your pool. So the link's down in the description, so go check that out. I think Washington is probably my pick, Matt, for the team I think is going to be most popular. No future value. Probably haven't been used by anybody in pools. More than a touchdown favorite against Carolina, who's extremely injured. Washington is at home. And for what it's worth, I'm in a free survivor pool with a $10,000 prize. It's one of those pools that actually shows you what the others have picked before lock. If they've made a pick, you can go to the leaderboard and see it. And of the 11 teams as we record here Wednesday afternoon that have made a pick in Survivor, 5 of them have picked Washington. So that's just another kind of clue to me that maybe Washington's going to be one of, if not the most popular teams this week.
Yeah, I think that there are 2 just surefire picks that you can't really go wrong with this week in Washington and Buffalo. You know, if you want to say Buffalo, I totally get it, because the view now, specifically after trading for Amari Cooper, Steven, is that the best version of Buffalo might still be down the line, as to where you have a healthy Washington team. They are playing very well right now. We know what we have in Carolina. So it's kind of one of those deals where, look, if there's 10 people left in your pool and you feel more confident in Buffalo, I'm not going to tell you not to do that. I mean, like, whatever. But, you know, some of these ones that you still have hundreds of people left and things like that, I think Washington, kind of your clear-cut play this week. As you mentioned, basically no future value for them. I mean, there is, if you want to look way down the line, I mean, Tennessee in week 13. But even then, right, like you got to make it to week 13. We're in week 7. So, I mean, basically no future value for Washington. So I expect them to be a team that garners a lot of attention this week, and rightfully so. I think Washington, Buffalo, 1-2 with a bullet in this, and then I guess we can have a discussion here about the Rams and the Raiders.
Yeah, every pool is going to be different right at this point because there's not that many people left. In the nationwide ESPN Eliminator pool, Jacksonville is actually like crushing Washington right now in popularity. And Washington is one of the teams playing one of the two bottom teams, right? It's either the Panthers or the Patriots that people like to pick on. I'll just say that I'm not picking Washington. I'm not picking Jacksonville whatsoever this week. Even if I'm trying to play game theory and avoid the most popular team, and Jacksonville's not going to be popular in my pool, I don't want Jacksonville. I mean, they used the Q word last week. I mean, they're stuck in London. If they don't win this game, Peterson's getting fired. One of the players basically said the defense quit last week. You have a defensive coordinator that has a history of not making any adjustments. And you have a Patriots quarterback and a rookie who's a highly touted prospect who should get better with each and every week.
Well, he adds variance to the team, and like that's the thing which makes them scary, right? Like Jacoby Brissett, you at least knew what you got. Like he was a very low ceiling, middling floor type guy and whatever, but you just weren't scared of Jacoby Brissett. Like Drake May steps in there and hits Keyshawn Boutte for a 40-yard touchdown pass, like right off the bat. He just YOLOs it out there and all that, and like the increased variance that he brings to a team that's not very good, Steven, is what makes it scary, right? Because like the only way a bad team is going to win is to just YOLO it. Like they got to go for it, and we saw in the first start there, Drake May is willing to do that.
Talk about variance. The forecast in London at Wembley's calling for some rain, some potentially sustained winds over 20 miles per hour. That only increases the variance.
Yep.
So I bet Jacksonville very early when there was a rogue 3.5. I don't feel great about it. Let me just put it that way. I have some CLV obviously at this point, but I don't feel great about that ticket. And I certainly am not putting my survivor life on the line with Jacksonville. So Matt, that leaves me with two other teams we haven't talked about that are in that 4 points or greater favorites when you look at the spreads this week. One is the LA Rams at home against the Las Vegas Raiders, and the other is the Cincinnati Bengals on the road against the now Amari Cooperless Cleveland Browns. So how do you feel about either of those?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the deal with the Rams, right? I think this is injury report based here. Like we're doing this on Wednesday, guys, and so we're not going to get a true injury report on this Rams team for a couple of days. But if Nakua is back out there, and if by any chance you get both receivers back out there, Steven, then I think that the Rams are a real consideration this week against a Raiders team that we predicted this a couple of weeks ago, that the wheels could be falling off on this team, and then obviously the wheels are fully falling off of this team. That said, again, it all kind of goes back, and this is what we'll keep saying over and over again. I think it does go down to the size of your pool, though, right? I mean, like, do you feel more confident in Washington and Buffalo? Obviously you do, right? And so, but if you still got to beat out several hundred people or a few hundred people or a couple hundred people, then I think the Rams really and truly do need to be in the discussion as a way to kind of pivot from where other people might be going.
Let me ask you, as somebody with a vested interest, I got 40 left in my pool. Where do you stand with that kind of number?
I would play Washington because I'm never going to play them again. Like I'm never going to play Washington again, right? I'm saving Buffalo. I keep Buffalo. Cincinnati, again, in theory, Cincinnati still has future value, and in theory, Cincinnati could still possibly get better because the defense can't get worse, right? So it can it's literally at the bottom of the league and everything. So they can't get worse.
Cincinnati has Vegas in week 9.
And that was the other thing. And then in week 9 is the very obvious spot to use Cincinnati at home against Vegas, who, again, is just by that point could be completely off the rails, right? Like it could be completely off the rails at that point. So it's a very clear pecking order for me, which would be Washington, Buffalo, Rams. And if I was game theorying, I will say the contingency plan would be I'm waiting on the injury report on the Rams to see what that wide receiver room looks like. And if that wide receiver room fits the bill for me, then Steven, then I think the Rams would be heavily in consideration.
The one last thing I'll say about the Buffalo game against Tennessee, it appears it's going to be another Will Levis game for Tennessee, but I would just want to make 100% sure that Will Levis is still starting in that game before I pick Buffalo. If it's Will Levis, fire away if you want to use Buffalo this week. Just looking at their future schedule, at Seattle, home against Miami, I don't know. Is Tua coming back in your opinion? I don't think so.
I mean, I don't see a reason for him to come back, but if they screw around and win this week, which they might, then maybe there's like this glimmer of hope that they make the playoffs or whatever. And so that is a reason maybe if you wanted to go ahead and play Buffalo and get him out of the way, because you might get Tua in that game in week 9. But
I'll put it this way, Matt. I'm not sure I'll be as confident in using Buffalo in a future week until week 16 when they're home against New England. And even then, Drake May might be a lot better than we thought. So, like, if I'm not using Buffalo this week, I can't say with confidence I'm going to feel as good about using them again until week 16 against New England. So that might motivate me to use them just right now.
Yeah, I mean, because, again, if Tua's back in 9, you're not going to love that. Because that offense, listen, you can nitpick the Dolphins all you want, and that's fine. But, like, when Tua's out there, that offense works. So I mean, there's a lot to nitpick about that team, but certainly the offense isn't one of them when Tua's out there. So, yeah, I'm with you. There is that variable that he could be back, which would want you to, because what that does, that decreases the future value of Buffalo. Because currently we're basing the future value on them against them going against Snoop Huntley. But
right.
If it's Tua, then that certainly decreases the future value of
Plus,
Buffalo.
that's the same week as the Bengals spot against the Raiders as well in week 9.
Right, so, which you would feel more comfortable using Cincinnati anyway, probably.
And if you're still alive in Survivor, you haven't used Cincinnati yet because they killed everybody else.
Yep. So
my pecking order, Matt, is probably going to be Buffalo number 1. Now that we've talked that out, Washington number 2, Rams number 3.
That is mine as well.
Yeah, Rams may move ahead of Washington for me because of popularity. But if you get a sniff or an indication or a hint that Washington's going to be the most popular team in your pool, then they're not number 1 for me. So the game theory rankings would move Washington to probably number 3 for me.
I will also say this, that if for whatever reason, it does not look like it's the case, but if the Rams don't get back either one of the wide receivers, then I'm far less interested in the Rams.
Correct. They are not in my top 3 at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm probably getting cute with one of these other teams that are more than a field goal favorite.
Yeah, same. So like they this is predicated on the fact, and again, they're coming out of a bye. Everything says they're going to get back at least one, if not both. So like I'm just going to move forward with that thinking. But if it comes time for you to put in your pick and it's still completely up in the air, then I would not risk it with the Rams then at that point. So I'm with you. Buffalo, Washington, Rams, with the caveat that the Rams could move up, because Washington week 13 against Tennessee, I don't see Tennessee getting better. If anything, they're going to get worse. They're probably going to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins and everything. So like you at least do have another spot where you could play Washington and feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. Any like total contrarian play way down this board here that you just fire off for the
No, because I think Miami's live against Indy. I think that Tampa's live against Baltimore. I think that I think there's like a lot of live dogs this week.
Yeah, if you're forcing me to pick like a super contrarian pick this week, it's probably the Chargers against Arizona. But obviously these other ones are much higher in priority for us.
All right, guys, everything we do absolutely free at the lines. Also, congratulations on making it this far in your Survivor pool. It's been a very tough season. Hopefully everybody from last week is back this week watching this vid, because we did squeak through last week with everything. So good on you, good on everyone, and good on the remaining weeks of the Survivor contest, which I hope lasts all season, but I guess we'll see. I mean, it's been absolutely wacky, no doubt about it. Upper right-hand corner of the lines.com, our Discord, that is free. Go in there, chit-chat with everybody, get some differing opinions. Me and Steven, while we think we know it all, we definitely don't. So get other opinions out there from other people too, and make the best decision you can. Good luck on your Week 7 Survivor picks.